Hello, good morning and welcome to Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. We have a special edition focusing on Niger. And as you know, on the 26th of July this year, a coup d'etat occurred in Niger in which the country's presidential guard detained the president, Mohamed Bazoum. The presidential head of the presidential guard, General Abdurrahman Chiani, proclaimed himself leader of the military junta. As we speak, they are holding the president and they say they intend to prosecute him. For what exactly? ECOWAS has since been very busy trying to restore democratic regime in Niger. There has been a meeting of ECOWAS army chiefs in Accra, so the world's attention has been here in the capital city of Ghana. Yesterday, the meeting concluded with a bold, straightforward announcement. ECOWAS is ready to strike. That is, if the Nigerian authority, the junta, does not allow diplomacy to prevail. On the international news, you read headlines, including by the CNN, that ECOWAS has announced a D-Day for intervening in Niger. They are right, because that's exactly what the military chiefs are saying. But what is the cause of the widespread opposition to this decision? Ghana, are you in support of your president deploying your military to join in this exercise? The ECOWAS itself is not completely 100% united in this fight. Can they contain a potential war? I'm Samson Ladia Yanini. We'll be right back to deal with the vexed matters. And we have people at the very top leading the process right here in the studio to answer your every question. We'll be right back.
Close the window small. Your room be too bright, oh.
Why, you be vampire where you know they like sunlight?
Oh, my guy, my eyes. Behind the PC problem.
Oh.
In the sun problem. Common light bulb stuff.
This no matter. I beg go Robert and Sons. Oh yeah, then my chick to him, I know correct. Cry. Where Robert and Sons sort them out sharp. Now so stylish frames in the wrong.
We go Robert and Sons right in. No, I was sitting inside proper.
For over 25 years, Robert & Sons continues to provide specialist eye care for both adults and children. Locate us at Adabraka, Adenta, Kumasi, Usudankwa, Tema, Weja, and East Legon. Call 050-151-9111. Robert & Sons, seeing is believing.
My way insurance, Bamobia, sing my way,
Hi, my name is Nanama McBrown, and I want to encourage you to dial *165# on MTN to join the My Way family. My Way provides you and a selected family member a cover against death. As a policyholder, you will also have a cover against total permanent disability and hospitalization should you be hospitalized for more than 2 nights. Dial *165# and join the family. Sanya My Way. Kasa no way.
My Way is a product of My Life and MTN Momo. Terms and conditions apply.
Since inception, almost 100% of Ashesi University students have found jobs, started businesses, or gone on to graduate school within 6 months of graduation. From Accra to Nairobi, London to New York, Ashesi graduates are noticed and they are leading successful careers. If you dream of a rewarding life and career, an Ashesi education prepares you for just that. Learn more about applying to Ashesi at www.ashesi.edu.gh.
From the comfort of my mobile phone. Whenever she has to get groceries too, my bank makes it cashless and convenient. And the part my wife loves the most is when my bank makes it possible and easy for her to shop from any part of the world without moving.
Welcome to the smart world of EcoBank. Download EcoBank mobile from Google Play Store or the App Store and discover the smart way to bank. EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank.
Ekapenu eya enuntire me proof say abibere o padea unsa nkoto no emprelu na me kanfo SCP ama SCP ewo tema shahel e na factory kese no esi eye na apɛ pavement blocks ankasa na de edisi dem biara no okɔ shahel SCP ebe ma obi se upese usiu dan na pete ogu concrete enya fina akoto cement akopa bo akopa nwia ofre SCP a the concrete is missing that with quality. Cement warm on the good camera amount. So whatever a fienya, dodowa, a flower, bong, any patam one nara. Your office. I was Princess Road. Your Papaya restaurant in the Division.
For SCP was 0501 672 608. And toll free number 0800 626 262.
Hi, good day. Your friend Dr. Victor Nana Dankwa because every big dank healthcare. A private bed and comfort hospital like catch up someone your liver and kidney related conditions. Will be one more your fatty liver. Will be one your catching so when your hydronephrosis. Will be one more your catching so when your pyelonephritis, which is inflammation of the kidneys. Will be one more your catching say the kidney should be a bitch now. Will be one more your send the creatinine and I send the JFR. And until we so how now see to me tatai. I feel don't send me an atom. Johnson now be Johnson, who was a phone be about training. Kawakuma to him. And until now, they done healthcare. Yamba say, you did not alternative way so, and the sound, yare.
So, over Big Danka, it was serene environment with ultra modern facilities. As I was showing you, there was Painters, Coca-Cola Runabout, close to Fidelity Bank, Stanchart, Ichironuma.
Dream.
You are your own person, unique, one of a kind, special. That's why you deserve everything tailored to suit your particular taste, your preference, your needs. Just like MTN Just For You. You can get customized offers tailored to who you are. Dial *141# or use the MyMTN app to get to choose from a variety of offers made just for you.
For decades, we have helped businesses connect with their trade partners all over the globe. From Ghana to Burkina Faso, Côte d'Ivoire, Benin, Togo, Senegal, China, Morocco, France, Netherlands, and many other countries. We have made it possible to bring Ghana to the world. We have brought small and medium businesses closer to their customers across the regions in Ghana with our SME support facilities. We have brought relief and smiles to the faces of families with our employee personal loans. With our cutting-edge technology and digital support, we take the burden of complex thinking off you, making life simple. That is who we are, as close as a partner. Bank of Africa. We are indeed the African bank with the global reach.
Daddy, this tank is big.
Yes, that's true.
It can store a lot of water.
That's so true.
Wow. It has a working tortoise on it.
That's so true.
I can see S-I-N-T-E-X. Syntax.
That is so true, my daughter.
But it falls down, it will spoil.
That's not true.
But why?
Yay! Syntex was the first to introduce double-layer tanks in Ghana. Syntex again was the first to introduce white inner layers in Ghana. Syntex gives you the biggest warranty, 7 years. No matter your water needs, Syntex is the answer. Syntex tank. Are you strong? Are you tough?
My name is John, and this is my long-time crush. My cookie dipped in strawberry yogurt. On this scorching hot afternoon on our way back from a long job hunt, we met this good Samaritan who offered us a ride.
6 weeks later,
big night to Shania, special wedding reception for our bride and groom.
And there she is, my cookie, dipped in someone else's yogurt.
Don't be like John, who holds the mullah, calls the shot. Play Game Pack Games, the easiest lottery to play and win. Pick 4 numbers from 0 to 9 up to 3 times daily to become one of our daily lucky winners. Dial *946# to play now. Or you can also play online at www.gamepackgames.com. Game Pack is regulated by the National Lottery Authority.
You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile we put Ghana first, and this show is brought to you by the kindest sponsorship of Bank of Africa. Strong as a group and close as a partner, MTN everywhere you go. HSC University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Robert & Sons Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care service provider for 31 years. Europlus, how you get your water matters. Remember, where Europlus goes, water flows. DBS Industries, roofing, Papa Fee, My Way Insurance. Dial *165# on MTN to join My Way today. Cherry Tree Properties. We develop spaces as though we were going to occupy them ourselves. Syntex tanks. It's strong, it's tough, and Flamingo paints. Simply superior. Thanks to Evans Mensah for holding the forts for me last week when I was away. My guests this morning are Ambassador Dr. Abdel Fattah Musa. You know him now since the last 2 days here in Accra. He's the Commissioner, Political Affairs, Peace and Security, Economic Community of West African States. That's ECOWAS. He's the man who led the announcements yesterday on live broadcast on Joy News, stating very unequivocally that ECOWAS was not ready to encourage and entertain needless, endless negotiations. And that even though the diplomatic channels were still open, perhaps after today, which is the 19th of August, it may shut somewhat, because if the guys in Niger do not open themselves up for negotiations for a peaceful process, as it were, diplomatic process, then the army chiefs of ECOWAS have unanimously agreed and have their plan ready. They're only waiting for the heads of states to say move, and they will hit Niger and restore democracy. So we're asking questions. At what cost? And will that be the best approach? As it appears, the Nigerian junta doesn't appear to be willing to do things otherwise. And of course, they have some support elsewhere. And we're waking up to news of Mali, Burkina Faso sending warplanes to Niger in response to military interventions. We will also be joined by Kojo Opong Nkrumah, who is MP of Fuasi Ayerebi and Minister for Information. He's actually joining us via Zoom. Samuel Okujetua Blakwa is MP North Tongue and Ranking Member Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament. Colonel Festus B. Abuaje is retired from the Army. He's the author, conflict and security analyst. He's also consultant on UN-AU joint planning for AUP support operations, UNDP consultant on disarmament, South Sudan adjunct member, Center on Democratic Transitions, Ghana, and a former member of Save the Children International Military Advisory Group. Professor Kwesi Ening, Director, Faculty of Academic Affairs and Research, Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. Last time I engaged him on this show, he wasn't so sure that ECOWAS meant their threat. What does he see today after the defense chiefs have unanimously agreed? Is it unanimous, really? No, I don't think, but those who are at the meeting here in Accra have agreed. Dr. Ken Ahosu, a senior research fellow, head of peace and security studies, and head of PhD programs, Legon Center for International Affairs and Diplomacy, Lesia, University of Ghana, Accra. Seydou Abudu is president, Ghanaian community in Niger. Yesterday, they also staged the protest against what is happening to their president. Smiler Idi Zanze is chairman, Progressive Onion Sellers Association. As you know, the onion that you do need for your food may not be available to you or as you want it because of what is happening in Niger. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you so very much for making time to join us on Newsfile, this special edition focusing on Niger.
It's a great pleasure.
Great. Good morning.
Samson.
Right. If I may begin with Colonel Festus Abuaje, you have said that there is no justification for ECOWAS's approach and threats to intervene militarily in Niger. What do you mean by that? No justification? The supplementary protocol that they have signed onto Niger as well does not allow military takeovers.
Yeah, Samson, good morning. And let me say good morning to this very, very well informed, educated panelists. And let me welcome you back from wherever you went that you didn't disclose to us.
Thank you.
Good to have you back. Now, for clarity, I didn't say that, and I haven't said that there is no justification. My argument is that there are very fundamental issues around this intervention that we need to bring to the discourse, the debate. And the most fundamental, from your legal perspective, is the justness of the cause for ECOWAS to intervene in Niger. What we call the just cause, or jus bello, if I pronounce it well. And the basis for that argument is that here we are in a community which has pronounced itself to zero tolerance for any accession to power through unconstitutional means. Broadly, that unconstitutional means is whether by civilian leaders or by military core cliques or armed forces. That is the spectrum of the unconstitutionalism or unconstitutionality. And even beyond that, it's also about the fundamentals of democracy, of good governance, of respect for human rights, of democracy, the rule of law, or respect for the rule of law. And the only means that we have, the only path to accede to power, which is the sanctity and the integrity of elections. So all of these denominators must prevail. If they don't prevail, then there has been a violation of that protocol, the accession to power through unconstitutional means. The analysis that I have done is that in the ECOWAS Council that we have, minus the 4 Francophone countries that are under sanctions, including Niger, the Lusophones have clearly stated that they will not be part of this project. That is Guinea-Bissau and Cape Verde. Then Togo, and I think it's uncontrovertible or incontrovertible, that Togo does not support the intervention. And Togo has annoyed Nigeria and has annoyed Burkina Faso. But there are 3 member states, i.e. Benin, and then Cote d'Ivoire, and Senegal, who to me are not democratic. So therefore, they cannot be part of a council that decides to restore democracy when they have either been undemocratic or have demonstrated non-democratic credentials. So that is the bottom line. The cause would be just if those saber rattling or the jingoism is done by those who have come to court with equity and have shown that their hands are clean. There are hands in the ECOWAS Council that are not clean. Point number 2, all the noise about where are we going to find the resources, the money to fund the intervention budget. Until today, ECOWAS has not told its citizens, granted that we are talking about democracy, the citizens of ECOWAS who have reposed authority or power in the hands of their leaders need to know. Remember, ECOWAS Commission is only a body that is like a secretariat to manage the affairs. So where is the money going to come from? It's not about we'll have the money or we'll find the money. We need to know where the money is coming from. Because ordinarily speaking, the ECOWAS Peace Fund divided into 3 windows, window 3 being for the kind of activity that we are going to engage in Niger, is not strong enough. And probably that is the reason why purportedly or allegedly, Ghana paid 5 million into the fund. And I'm told, again, allegedly, that Nigeria paid 20 million. You see it. And then, in the words of Dr. Abdul Fattah Musa, if need be, we'll receive assistance from outside. Where is this free lunch coming from? And what are the interests of those who are going to give us the money? So since ECOMOG, we should have learned lessons that we must, as he said, we must, be independent. We must be seen to be mature. In Kwame Nkrumah's words, to be managing our own affairs. Therefore, any support that comes from outside is suspect. With the intentions behind those support will be suspect. And of course, we can assume, rightly so, that some of the support will come from France. US may not be that simple. And the US so far is saying that they are finding ways of working with this military regime without necessarily disengaging with that authority completely. But the way diplomacy works is that behind the scenes, we could be back to the days of Latin America MPRI, when behind the scenes, America was doing all manner of things. But we'll hear, if America decides to send money to ECOWAS, we'll hear from the American Congress. So let's behave like those Democrats in America and the UK and tell our people where the money is going to come from. So that is about the justness. You see it? We may go to Niger, but Niger may not be the last. And I'm about to release a case study on this Niger and largely broadly on coups and unconstitutionality and constitutionalism in West Africa. Since 2003, and I use 2003 as the timeline or benchmark, because that is when we enunciated the African peace and security architecture. There have been 14 third wave coups in West Africa. Assuming that we had a strategy of using military intervention to restore democracy, would it be imaginable, practicable, that ECOWAS would have mounted 14 military engagements or interventions to restore democracy? Now, remember that I have not talked about the other attempted coups and the other civilian misgovernance, which have, allowed some of these countries to descend into civil wars in which several people died.
Okay, so
we need to be very, very, yes,
right. We should be looking at those. But when you say there's no just cause, and you have a good list, reasonable to any ear, that you have a great point. But then how will you answer to ECOWAS taking a similar step and in January 2017, ECOWAS troop entering Gambia to restore democracy, Operation Restore Democracy?
Okay, I make a distinction. There are different types of such military activities. The Gambia one in 2017 was not an intervention. It was a preemptive deployment. Remember, before any soldier set foot in the Gambia, Yahya Jammeh had already left. So that demonstration of the use of force, thanks to the geography of that part of Africa, the Gambia is like the tongue in somebody's mouth, in the mouth of Senegal. So Senegal's presence, per the architecture of the ECOWAS standby force, constituting the Western vanguard, was already in a position to more or less encircle the Gambia, with the exception of, let's say, the Atlantic coast. So that deployment was not an intervention. It's very different, and by the way, it was by a civilian leader who was being recalcitrant, or whatever the English word is. Very different from Liberia, which had been invaded by Charles Taylor through Cote d'Ivoire, and which saw the community divided at the time. So the deployment to Cote d'Ivoire was to counter the invasion under the pretext of going to extricate Ghanaian and ECOWAS citizens. Now, that deployment cannot be compared to the situation in Niger. Yeah. And I've already alluded to the argument that out of 14 coups, right? Why have we all of a sudden become very wise that we will not allow Niger to go, if you like, unpunished?
But there must always be a starting point.
Yeah, let me make this point. My argument is that the black ant that the Akans call Nkrani, the village wisdom among the Akans is that when you are in the Nkrani, the black ants, that is not when you pick the black ants. You step aside and then you pick. So the best course of approach currently is to use diplomacy. Then after the dust has settled, you come back, and I'm writing that in my paper, sit down, bring your policy practitioners, bring your experts, bring your politicians, your diplomats together, and then find the reason why there is a resurgence of coups in Ghana, and similarly, why the civilian tendencies towards third term and constitutional re-engineering is also on the increase.
So far, diplomacy doesn't seem to yield much. We are told of the delegation sent by the Nigerian president, ECOWAS, head, and they were not allowed beyond the airports. I mean, to some extent, that's such an insult, isn't it?
Because Samson, everybody that you speak to, there is a playbook for ECOWAS. The ECOWAS playbook is that when you have situations like Niger, which had applied previously in the instances of coups, first of all, you suspend, right? Secondly, you sanction. Thirdly, you engage constructively. And in the ECOWAS books, and I'm asking anybody who wants to read, to go and read the ECOWAS Treaty, Revised Treaty 1993. Read the protocol that we're talking about, 2001. Read the Conflict Prevention Framework 2008. Samson, intervention is not mentioned anywhere. However, there is a provision, what in law you call the Omnibus Clause, which says that in any other operation that from time to time the Mediation and Security Council can or will mandate. Now, we should not hide behind that Omnibus Clause. Because in all of these protocols, we talk about enforcement of sanctions. That is not what we're going to do in Niger. We talk about peace building and talk to the experts. Peace building are measures like we are doing, National Peace Council, using chiefs and so on. It's not coercive. You say it. So why are we going to use force? Intervention, what we are referring to as a Chapter 7 operation. And meanwhile,
as we understand, we'll get there. As we understand, they don't feel that there's a necessity from their advice from their attorneys. They don't feel there's a necessity to trigger an Article 7 process, and that they can go on by simply informing the UN without requiring their permission to, so to speak.
That is not the case, Samson. The wording of that phraseology, I believe in Chapter 7 or Chapter 8, is that as soon after, but there are circumstances when a country can be aggressed. And when a country belongs to a body like the ECOWAS, an aggression against that state is an aggression against all member states. So your response will be immediate. This is not the scenario that we have. There is time. You see what I mean? He says we have a D-Day. We have not arrived at a D-Day. Because you cannot have a D-Day when you don't have a force commander. The decisions arrived at in Accra per the ECOWAS standby force arrangements and ECOWAS's protocol will now have to go to the Mediation and Security Council for approval. And the Mediation and Security Council is conflated because when we established it, the 50 member states that, like their accounts, when we are two to set a trap, then the two of us must go and inspect the trap. But there are political reasons why they thought that way. Because there are some regional role players who want to be in that equation since inception. As we speak, per the African Union Protocol 2003 that established the Peace and Security Council, you serve 3-year terms twice or 2-year terms twice, then you step aside. Since inception, Nigeria has been a member. Complete violation of the protocol. You cannot belong to a sub-region where you establish core values and principles, and some members are so powerful that they don't be part. They are not part of the.
Thank you very much.
These are some of the fundamental issues.
Right. Kindly hold on there for us. And clearly, Colonel Festus Abuaje is straightforward about his point that there is no just cause, and he has assembled such convincing facts to justify his points. I want to welcome Ambassador Dr. Abdul Fattah Musa, Commissioner Political Affairs, Peace and Security of the ECOWAS, into the studio. Thank you very much for making time to join us.
No, thank you. It's my pleasure.
Great. So these experts that we are speaking to, members of parliament and so on that we are talking to, almost all of them appear to have questions that you have the answers to. So please be a little patient for me. Let me now go and talk to Dr. Ken Ahosu, Senior Research Fellow, Head of Peace and Security Studies, and the Head of PhD Programs, Legon Center for International Affairs and Diplomacy. Doc, from where you sit, doesn't it appear that what ECOWAS has done so far, particularly with the meeting that ended yesterday of the defense chiefs in Accra, was as a result of diplomacy failing, and therefore they need to show the junta that ECOWAS is capable and ready to use the necessary force? So is there any more room for diplomacy from where you sit?
Well, thank you very much for having me, and it's nice seeing my old-time friends, Dr. Abdul Fattah, Colonel First Sus, all of the panel, Kwesi and co. Well, I don't think that the communique from the head of military distance is anything dramatic. If you are abreast with military practice, big states like United States of America always have scenarios when there is a conflict. This is how we will approach it and that sort of thing. And they put costs on it, the resources and that sort of thing. And I think that was largely what happened. What resources do we have? What troops can we contribute? How do we coordinate our communication system, operational standards, and that sort of thing? But the normal thing is that while these blueprints always exist for hotspots, they are not given the kind of publicity that has been given to the Accra Special Conference as it is. My problem with the whole approach with ECOWAS is that with the appointment of Tinubu as the president of ECOWAS or head of whatever that position is, he sounded so bellicose towards coup d'etats, and that set the stage. So once there was a coup d'etat, he has to act in a manner to show that what he has said he would be able to deliver. And from that perspective, the credibility of ECOWAS was at stake. Now, as Colonel Abuaji was saying, why do you treat Niger case differently? There have been several coup d'etats, and the normal thing is to suspend them, implement sanctions, and give them transition. So why then do you treat Niger differently? But the danger is that, and I'm really, really surprised with my old friend, Dr. Abdul Fattah, but then as Shakespeare says, new governments come upon us, and it's only by wearing them that we become familiar with it. Because running away from
Hello, Doc. Hello, Doc.
They have been running away from I hope you can hear me clearly.
I can hear you clearly, except that...
Can you hear me?
I can hear you clearly, except that we didn't hear your quotation or citation from Shakespeare.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you clearly. I wanted you to repeat.
Hello, can you hear me?
I hear you clearly. I wanted you to repeat what you said, Shakespeare said, and you said that because of the place that your friend finds himself.
Yeah, I'm speaking. I'm not sure if you can hear me, but if you can hear me, I'm continuing my presentation.
Go ahead.
Internationally, everybody is running away from intervention. And as we've been saying all along, responsibility to protect is dead. So my question is that why is ECOWAS so fervent about intervention in Niger, whereby all our economics are run down and we are all over the world begging for pittance to survive, so to say. Intervention brings about a lot of distraction and disallocation. With the crisis going on in Ukraine and Russia, already NATO forces, European Union are pledging money for reconstruction. So the question is that how ready is ECOWAS in order to correct any damage that will come about in Niger? That's my first point. And secondly, as Colonel Abuaji raised the point, where is the funding coming from to undertake this type of intervention? And the point being that there are so many interests, conflicting interests in the Nigerian crisis, in the sense that it is not only the military which is being made a public show of, but the whole history of France, colonial history, and their policy of African, and all the policies that they have run through the process are now being tested. So the question is that, where does ECOWAS stand? And my fear is that ECOWAS eventually will appear to be doing the dirty job of other foreign countries for that matter.
Right, they debunk that suspicion, but we'll see how effectively they are able to debunk that suspicion. Dr. Kenasu, even though we have some small problems with your line, we'll ask you to patiently hold on. If you are able to hear us, we'll come back to you shortly. Now, I'm going to Professor Kwesi, but before we hear him, let's hear part of the announcement after the Army chiefs concluded their two-day meeting in Accra yesterday.
All member states of ECOWAS present here today have all committed elements. They have committed their own equipment. They have committed their own resources to undertake this mission. So I tell you, we are ready to go anytime the order is given. The D-Day is also decided, which we are not going to disclose. There will be no more meetings of the chiefs of defense staff. If there will be, it will be probably in the course of the operation if there is the need to adjust the operation. This is the second extraordinary meeting and the final meeting before deployment.
How clear can we expect them to be? Professor Kwesi, Dr. Ken also said what they did yesterday was not dramatic, but it appears to have attracted a response. And state television in Niger, we understand, is talking about Mali, Burkina Faso sending warplanes to Niger in response to potential military intervention. Clear response to what happened in Accra yesterday, isn't it? Prof, kindly unmute your mic.
Some of us are too old for this technology. It's a very clear response, but it is also a necessary response. When you perceive that you will be attacked, of course, you will make the preparations. But I can tell you this, something, and let me repeat it. The attack will not happen.
You want to repeat this?
Very clearly. And you know yourself the number of times I've predicted coup d'etats that have come true. So this is about forecasting and risk analysis and risk assessments. The intervention will not happen because ECOWAS needs to reverse or to retract its steps to get part of its credibility back let me take a couple of steps back. My dear friend, Dr. Abdel Fattah Musa, in your studio, designed the conflict prevention framework and knows the steps particularly well. So he's in a very hot seat, a very uncomfortable seat. We know that first is suspension. The second is a sanctions regime. All sanctions disproportionately affect the weak and the poor. ECOWAS has put in place such a dramatic draconian sanctions regime in which those who designed it have forgotten the basic mantra, do no harm. To such an extent that the Under-Secretary General of the UN, Griffiths, has had to write a letter to the ECOWAS Commission President reminding him of the humanitarian aspects. Now, that is a slap in the face of ECOWAS. Now, the addressee of who has received that letter is wrong. That letter must go to the chair of ECOWAS, President Tinubu, because he will then discuss with his fellows and it will trickle down. But Dr. Musa, Abdel Fattah Musa, can speak furthermore to this. The military intervention option, it's a necessary tool in the instrument box to give ECOWAS its gravitas and to nudge the regime in Niamey to come round the table. So it is a necessary tool, but it will not be used. That's something I can bet you a bottle of lager volume each. Because what ECOWAS is trying to do is to invent, I can see those beautiful smile. That is really very useful, to calm all of us down. ECOWAS is trying to regain a bit of the credibility that it has lost by inverting the conversation. Okay, yes, now we have put the military in place, but the regime says they want to talk, and therefore we will give them that option. The regime in Niamey already started signaling their willingness to speak more than a week ago, when the Emir of Sokoto went to visit, and they indicated that there's a conversation. But because of the tendency that our elders don't make mistakes and they don't apologize, I am happy that at least we seem to have some leeway towards negotiation. That is very useful. But I think Festus's point about the inclinification of dialogue and conflict resolution, and Festus, please put it in your article, the inclinification, because you cannot deal with this whilst you are in the thick of the problem. And so when we talk about Niger, the narrative is that, but they are so poor. Poverty has nothing to do with this. Does Niger have options that it can use? And the answer is yes. This huge pipeline going through Niger to Algeria and to the rest of Europe gives the regime a powerful negotiation base. So Samson, for one of the few times that I've spoken to you, I want to look at the options for heading towards peace, and what the negotiation positions can be. ECOWAS needs to regain its credibility and to regain the sense that it is a useful organization that speaks to the people's needs. Samson, we join a group because we share in its values and its norms and principles. When you have an organization in which 4 members have made coup d'etats, Festus mentioned 3 others whose processes towards elections have been faulty. What it means is that a little more than 50% of members of that organization do not believe in the normative frameworks that they have voluntarily signed on to. That leads to issues of credibility. Now, when the organization itself fails to use its own standard operating procedures in responding to these challenges, then ordinary people begin to say, but why this? Why are you using multiple standards to resolve problems that have happened much earlier on? And I'm afraid to say that will happen again. Okay, so it's not that we don't want democracy anymore. Actually, we are so desperate for democracy to be embedded, and then realize the onus on our multilateral organization, ECOWAS, to be consistent in the application of the principles and the values inherent in all the protocols and conventions and regulations that we have signed on. Can you imagine something? If Hearts of Oak and Asante Kotoko are playing, and suddenly half of the supporters of Hearts of Oak decide to support Asante Kotoko. I mean, this is very basic. So ECOWAS has a credibility issue that I'm hoping that Niger serves as a lesson to them, but also to all of us. Bellicose language does not help when we are in a crisis situation. We need to bring different parties around the table and start the process of the conversation.
In trying to raise troops for this purpose, Tinubu himself, as the head of this supranational institution, does not have the support of his Senate, so to speak, doesn't have the support of his own people. How significant is this moving forward as ECOWAS intends to?
Well, it's very significant. And I'm happy you have Honorable Ablakwa in your studio. When we make war commitments, because those commitments are public money, or funding those commitments are public money, that must be accounted for. You need to go to your legislature to get the appropriate support and to get appropriate appropriations. Let's not forget that when even the supplementary budgets are read, you cannot foresee what is going to happen. So when parliaments across the sub-region are doubtful, then that brings another stumbling block. But Samson, Dr. Musa has said that there was almost total buy-in, which I think is a good thing. But it looks to me as if the capitals in West Africa are saying something different from their representatives on the Peace and Security Council in Addis Ababa. Because the Peace and Security Council in Addis Ababa, I think on Wednesday, was very clear that they wanted peaceful processes to resolving this crisis. So there are quite a few stumbling blocks that we need to iron out. Bottom line, look, I've always said this, that Dr. Fattah Musa has the gravitas, the authority, the intellectual heft, and the moral standing to speak truth to power. And my old friend is being tested right now. In the public discourse, he may not be able to diverge. But I know behind closed doors, he has the arguments to do so. He needs to get those who are making these decisions to understand the complexities that Festus has spoken about.
All right.
That's very clear. A lot of the people talking have never read the documents before. Okay, so whilst we want to protect, then we have a responsibility to protect. There's also a responsibility whilst protecting. And we have overlooked that responsibility. And that is why the UN Humanitarian Affairs boss has had to write this letter. That is an unfortunate, criticism of the sanctions regime.
Thank you very much. they got money for wars but can't feed the poor, attributed to PAC. Now, let me get to the gentleman in Parliament, and then we'll come to the Commissioner, whom we are so thankful for making time to join us right here in the studio to take your questions. Now, if you're a Ghanaian, we want you to share with us your views of the approach and whether you support your government in the process. So share with us all our social media handles, share with us on Twitter and elsewhere, and we will share with the rest of the world. We know there are people in Niger and elsewhere in the sub-region or in the ECOWAS region who are watching and listening to us this morning. Also let us know what you think, and we will share with the rest of the world. So in Parliament, you don't seem to be agreed that our states should commit to the process. Why not? We are seeking a West African sub-region of leaders who are democratically elected and who are doing things in a democratic dispensation. And as I mentioned earlier, they have signed onto these protocols which don't allow them to do the things they are doing. It doesn't matter that some may not have suffered the approach that Niger is currently, being subjected to. But there must be a starting point where we say enough is enough.
Well, something, let me extend regards to you, to the eminent panel, and thank you for bringing my lost friend back to me. It's good to be in the studio with you.
Almost everyone is happy to have you around.
Yes. But they will be hitting me. Except that his comrades take the view that the position that we all held when we were active on the left, that's not what we are hearing him communicate these days. So he knows that we have some ideological issues.
I think Dr. Kenahosu sought to say, "An easy lies the head that wears the crown."
Yes.
He finds himself in quite a difficult situation.
Yes.
But what must be done ought to be done.
Yes, and what must be done should not depart from principles, should not depart from pragmatism, should not depart from what works. Look, Samson, this whole matter must be situated within the context of democracy, because it is really a lecture on democracy to Niger, in this instant case, that all of us have committed to deepening our democratic credentials. We do not want ECOWAS to return to the period of coups where military juntas control political power, and that the popular masses should have the power to elect their leaders and to remove them when they so decide. That our good friends in uniform should focus on security, protecting our territorial integrity. That is the framework for this discussion. So I must say ab initio that we are all opposed to military takeovers. Nobody supports coups. I mean, when these coups occur, we in Parliament, we are the first casualties. All coup announcements, you will hear the phraseology, Parliament is hereby dissolved. We will instantly become unemployed. We'll be jobless. So I cannot come here and speak in favor of military takeovers.
So if nobody supports coups, nobody should encourage them and nobody should entertain them.
Exactly. Let's establish that. However, in as much as we do not support coups, we do not support military takeovers, we must recognize that some elements, and you find this happening in ECOWAS time and time again, abuse democratic opportunities They are not empathetic to the people. They don't use good governance tools. They don't listen to the masses. They even use their democratically elected office to undermine institutions, compromise the judiciary, entrench themselves, engage in what you may want to call constitutional coups. And that has been the bane in the sub-region. You look at the continent today and those who are spearheading this. I heard President Ouattara say that he was the first to announce that his troops are ready. President Ouattara, who is on his third term, who amended his constitution. There was no condemnation. His peers went to his inauguration and congratulated him. Macky Sall is the second leader who has said that he is ready. He has even said that his money is ready, even though he has not gone to parliament.
I thought he has renounced that.
It's Cape Verde.
Okay.
No.
It's Macky Sall, right?
No.
He's renounced that.
Macky Sall has renounced.
He's renounced that.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
Now he has, yes.
Okay.
So, but he was the second after Ouattara. Now, what is Macky Sall's current democratic credentials? But for, and I must commend Dr. Fattah appointing Goodluck Jonathan and his colleagues, the West Africa Elders Forum, going to negotiate. He was very close to installing himself as a third-term president. Today, he is delivering lectures to Niger. So ECOWAS has a credibility crisis. I agree with Professor Eni. You see, right from the outset, when ECOWAS was established in 1975, even the host of that establishment conference, General Gowon, was not a Democrat. Few months thereafter, he was overthrown. 6 leaders at that meeting were military dictators. Few years after, 8 other countries had coups. Indeed, if you look at the ECOWAS membership, only 2 countries have not had coups. Only Cape Verde and Senegal. So you can understand the quagmire ECOWAS finds itself in. Credibility crisis, lacking the moral right. All of these countries, when coups happen, the Nigerians will tell you, why was there not an intervention? From, I mean, if you do the counting, since ECOWAS was established in 1975, there has been about 126 coups. Over the last 3 years, there have been 6 coups already, 2 in Mali, 2 in Burkina Faso. So there's a real credibility crisis. And this attempt to now say, you see, we must be hardlined, we must use force, and that will serve as a deterrent. I am afraid. I take a totally different view. I do not think that military intervention is what will stem the tide. Rather, they should look at the causative factors. All of this bad leadership, people using democracy to entrench themselves, to kill their people. Look at how many opposition leaders have been imprisoned in Senegal, how many protesters have been shot in Senegal by a democratically elected leader. Look at the state of unemployment on the continent. Look at the state of corruption. Niger, if you look at all the UN multidimensional poverty analysis, is below the ladder, the poorest, and yet they have uranium. Yet they have this pipeline which others are leveraging to advance their economic interests. And the masses, will you believe that about 80% of the people in Niger don't have access to electricity? Can you believe that? Basic amenities. And only a few elite enjoy. Once they go into these negotiations and their family cronies get a good piece of the pie, the rest can go to hell. Then the elephant in the room, if you look at this new wave of coups, they are all happening in Francophone Africa. We must be honest to have a discussion about the French hegemony in the sub-region. This Charles de Gaulle pact must give way. There is great resentment on the continent against this influence of France. As we all say, the French never left. The Brits if you look at the decolonization, the disengagement, they left fully, we became Republican status and all of that. You can't say same of the French. And the masses are rebelling. One factor that these ECOWAS leaders haven't considered is look at the level of popularity. If anybody tells you that these coups are not popular, look, I have friends in Niger. I have done my own independent analysis because I know that during these times there's a lot of propaganda. Talk to people on the ground, talk to ordinary people. It was the same in Mali, the same in Burkina Faso. So what is democracy really? Isn't it about what the masses want, what the majority want? So we must have a discussion about that French hegemony. And France itself, and I noticed that in the early days of President Macron, he tried to offer a new partnership, some new framework, but he has not been deep and far-reaching. That discussion must be held. Look at the demonstration in Niger and the chants. But I must add, though, that in as much as a Pan-Africanist, I am against any form of oppression, any form of colonization. I denounce what is happening now, where people are chanting down with France and yet are flying Russian flags. Don't move from one master to another. We must find a Pan-African solution to our economic crisis. We must have an African solution. In as much as I will criticize this whole French hegemony, I also don't want a new Russian hegemony or a new Russian empire to be created. And that is why I must condemn the role of Wagner in all of these coups. And you see the Wagner leader already pledging support. But now back to Parliament. We are opposed to this military intervention because fundamentally, we are appalled at how heads of states treated our Parliament. They rushed to go and make this July 30 declaration, we are going to intervene. Then 10th August, they did the same, without engaging our parliaments. Nigeria took strong exception. Their senators on their own. It wasn't even President Tinubu who went there with his plan in Niger. They, as a Senate, decided to discuss this matter and pass a resolution. And that was a slap in the face of Tinubu. It was embarrassing. And already, many have followed. All the northern governors have issued statements that they don't support this deployment. How is he going to do this deployment without the support of the Nigerian people? We've seen
looking at the border, and the direct impact on Nigeria. The northern
and the control of these northern governors.
Yes, the northern senators are concerned because there are about 6 states within Nigeria that directly is
and they are virtually the same people, cousins, relatives, intermarriages, and all of that. It's going to be so complex. Senegal, same. Their parliament had to delve a blow to Macky Sall. So you are lecturing Niger on democracy. You yourself, you are not practicing democratic credentials. You should have engaged your parliaments before you go and make a final determination. Carry the people along. That is why you see that these leaders have been left alone. This is a very unpopular decision. Go to the streets of Africa.
Leaders are allowed to take decisions and seek ratification, so to speak.
Even that, under Article 75, we know how the ratification must be sought. The Gitmo decision is very clear. Have they done that? Parliament is being treated with contempt. We are now, amongst us, discussing, we want to go the Nigerian way, discussing activating Order 38 of our standing orders so that 15% of MPs can trigger a recall of Parliament, and then the Speaker will be forced within 7 days.
I'm talking in the loose general business sense of, say, company law. Where because you have a CEO, they have to deal with certain things under certain emergencies. You give them a certain room to operate.
But you see,
then they come back to you and say, I have gone to commit to ABC. I suppose that this should be in the interest of this country. Please now give me the power to continue. So, when you have a fluid situation and they go for meetings and take these decisions, you don't say that is so wrong. They need to first come and seek parliamentary, sort of approval before they are able to. Otherwise, they will be robotic.
You see, let's not make excuses. You see, we are talking about democracy, how we want to entrench and deepen democracy. We have seen what happens in all over the place, best practice. When last year the Russians invaded Ukraine, we saw how all Ukraine's Western allies, immediately they convened their parliaments. It's not in their constitutions even expressly. Some of those countries don't even have written constitutions, like the UK. But best practice, democracy, you must engage the people. Immediately they convene meetings. All the support that has gone to Ukraine, the $75 billion from the US Congress has approved every peso. The House of Commons, the over 12 billion pounds that has gone to Ukraine. Every pound, every penny approved by the House of Commons. All the EU countries, the 35 billion euros, pardon me, all approved by EU member parliament.
Exactly my point. This is not happening before the action.
No, it happened before they went there. But I'm saying that even if it could not happen before because of the exigencies of time, they have been back since the 30th of July.
That's right.
What are they waiting for? Article 75 is very clear. The president may execute or cause be executed treaties, agreements, or conventions in the name of Ghana. A treaty, agreement, or convention executed by or under the authority of the president shall be subject to ratification by A, act of parliament, or B, a resolution of parliament supported by the votes of more than one half of all members of parliament. So Article 75 is very clear. The Gitmo decision is very clear by our Supreme Court. What is the president waiting for? And that is why when the ministers of national security, defense, the interior, and foreign affairs appeared before the Joint Committee of Foreign Affairs and Interior and Defense, we made clear that we expect them to call a plenary meeting and present to us whatever agreement, whatever plan they have for Niger. The other matter relates to the finances. We have heard all kinds of fantastic figures in excess of $2.7 billion. I have here the budget approved for this year. The contingency vote for Ghana is 1.4 billion cedis, but we slashed it by half. What was finally approved was about 700 million. Knowing the spending patterns of this government, I know that 700 million, not much is left already. So they cannot hide under the contingency vote. They would have to come to parliament. When are they going to come to parliament? Are they going to spend without parliamentary approval? That is a gross violation of Article 178 of the Constitution. And we are not going to accept that. So we are trying to lecture others on democracy. Let us act democratically. Then you see, there are also serious logistical issues that have to be discussed. I have heard from reliable sources that they need a force of not less than 50,000 troops. Dr. Fatai is here, can confirm or deny. I know that some of these tactical things may not be spoken.
We'll ask him that.
You know, so far, we have just about a pledge of 800 to 1,100 from Ivory Coast. If you really look at ECOWAS today, it's Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, Ivory Coast. When we decided to set up the security fund to support the Accra initiative, to fight the extremists, the insurgents who are taking over the sub-region. Only 2 countries contributed. Nigeria, $20 million, Ghana, $5 million. The rest say we should give them time. So Nigeria is stretched already with Boko Haram. Tinubu doesn't have support. Ivory Coast, they say they can do only 1,000. Senegal, I know that they have received a juicy offer from the Americans to send their troops to Haiti to support the American intervention there, because Haiti is totally getting out of control. They are likely to accept that. That's left with Ghana. How are we going to get those numbers? So even logistically, practically, so I think that there's been a lot of us. I think Professor Enin put it very nicely that in Africa, elders don't make mistakes, elders don't get it wrong. So we are just seeing it's a lot of half and puff, honestly. I don't see how financially. And you see, Dr. Fatal made a statement that, you know, we are going to fund this ourselves, but if our partners or allies want to support us, well, that's up to them. I really would have wished that ECOWAS declares directly, unequivocally, that we will not welcome support from anywhere because of the nature of this crisis. Look, we are going to face a geopolitical proxy battle on our hands.
We'll deal with that aspect of it as well.
And if I can just conclude in 30 seconds. So, if you receive money from the French, what is their interest? How is this going to be seen by the Russians and by all those other countries who are having tensions? Algeria, Libya, and all these insurgents who have issues, with the French. So look, we are in a very difficult place. The only option is to go according to the wisdom of Article 40C of Ghana's Constitution. Article 40C is very clear that in its dealings with other nations, the government shall promote respect for international law, treaty obligations, and the settlement of international disputes by peaceful means. That is the advice in our Constitution, that we should use peaceful means. So we come back to the use of diplomacy, constructive dialogue. That is our best option in this matter. Peaceful means, as the Ghanaian Constitution admonishes.
Thank you very much. And that was Samuel Kudjeto Ablakwa. We will speak to Kojo Opon Krumah, the Information Minister, and then I will take time for the Commissioner to answer all their questions that they raise. I see him taking notes as is required of him. We want you to continue to send in your messages. We have some of them we'll share with you. Do you support military intervention in Niger? And why not? Do you want your government to commit to such a process? We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Number 1 from here, 2 and 3 from here, 5 and 6 from here. For now. Now I have the number 7, 8, and the number 9.
You need number 10.
Please, I can't eat anymore.
I mean, number 10, liver salt.
The effective liver salt for the relief of stomach upset, heartburn, hyperacidity, and indigestion.
Would you like to try number 11? What?
Number 10 liver salt. Refreshing relief, fast. Manufactured and distributed by Ernest Chemists Limited. This advert is FDA approved.
Betway is your gateway to a theme park full of gaming excitement. A whirlpool of wonder where your favorite games come to life. Where you can take to the skies with max payouts that reach into the millions. All in the palm of your hand. Visit betway.com.gh. Terms and conditions apply. Betway is regulated by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. No under 18. Bet responsibly. Betway. Bet your way.
Vampire way, they like sunlight.
Oh my guy, my eyes behind the PC problem. In the sun problem. Common light bulb stuff.
This no matter. I beg go Robert and Sons. Oh yeah, then my chick to him, I know correct. Where Robert and Sons sort them out sharp. Now so stylish frames in the rock.
We go Robert and Sons right in. No, I was sitting inside proper.
For over 25 years, Robert & Sons continues to provide specialist eye care for both adults and children. Locate us at Adabraka, Adenta, Kumasi, Usudankwa, Tema, Weja, and East Legon. Call 050-151-9111. Robert & Sons, seeing is believing.
My way insurance,
Hi, my name is Nanama McBrown, and I want to encourage you to dial *165# on MTN to join the My Way family. My Way provides you and a selected family member a cover against death. As a policy holder, you will also have a cover against total permanent disability and hospitalization should you be hospitalized for more than 2 nights. Dial *165# and join the family. Sanya My Way. Kasa no way.
My Way is a product of My Life and MTN Momo. Terms and conditions apply.
With them, they are DSU. As I can introduce DBS Lifestyle Gauge Trusses amount. They say, baby, I say, Yama minimum the day. And you know, you dance. And no crow. No, send a new Benina and your papa. Sa DBS Lifestyle Gauge Trusses. Yet the computer not generated. Inti Edna didn't go straight. And the piece of air not dinty. They want to mean the enemy. And good answer, affable. Finito. More musicians saw that. More music factories. And I said, that is Yabiano. Me recommend DBS Trust Samamo. DBS Trust. Finito.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to demonstrate to you the superior properties of Flamingo paint. As compared to other paint brands on the market, we take equal quantities of Flamingo paint and this ordinary paint. We then dilute them with water. And now, let the test begin. The gentleman on the left is going to apply the ordinary paint, and the gentleman on my right will use the Flamingo superior paint. As you can clearly see, Flamingo has the obvious better hiding. Furthermore, Flamingo has painted a much larger area. You know, 1 bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint is made with superior formulation to give superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior.
Betway is your gateway to a theme park full of gaming excitement. A whirlpool of wonder where your favorite games come to life. Where you can take to the skies with max payouts that reach into the millions. All in the palm of your hand. Visit betway.com.gh. Terms and conditions apply. Betway is regulated by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. No under 18. Bet responsibly. Betway. Bet your way.
My name is Tina. I am a person living with HIV. I got to know my HIV status after I gave birth and lost the child because of HIV. In those days, prevention of mother-to-child transmission services had low patronage due to fear and stigmatization. Today, many HIV-positive women have delivered negative children. I follow the guidelines and take my HIV medicine called ARVs every day, as prescribed by my doctor. This makes me strong and healthy, and also prevent me from passing HIV onto any future child. Please, avail yourself of PMTCT services when pregnant. It is the only way to ensure you do not pass the HIV onto your baby during birth or pregnancy. If you have tested for HIV recently and it was negative, test again when pregnant. If you have tested positive, go to the hospital after birth as directed by your healthcare provider. Your baby will be given medicine immediately and tested to ensure baby and mother are well. Let us work together to have an HIV-free generation.
Our children must be free to shine.
states of ECOWAS present here today have all committed elements. They have committed their own equipment. They have committed their own resources to undertake this mission. So I tell you, we are ready to go anytime the order is given. The D-Day is also decided, which we are not going to disclose. There will be no more meetings of the chiefs of defense staff. If there will be, it will be probably in the course of the operation if there is the need to adjust the operation. This is the second extraordinary meeting and the final meeting before deployment.
Right, so we continue with the discussion, and you just heard Ambassador Dr. Abdul Fattah Musa, Commissioner, Political Affairs, Peace and Security of ECOWAS. Earlier, you heard Colonel Festus Abuaje, retired, author, conflict and security analyst, consultant on UN and AU joint planning for AU Peace Support Operations, UNDP consultant on disarmament, South Sudan, among others. Professor Kwesienin, you heard him also, Director, Faculty of Academic Affairs and Research, Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. Dr. Ken Ahosu is also the man you heard. He's Senior Research Fellow, Head of Peace and Security Studies, and Head of PhD Programs at Lesia, Legon. We do have Information Minister Kojo Oppong Nkrumah on Zoom, and later we will also be speaking to Seydou Abudu. He's president of the Ghanaian community in Niger. He's been on the line with us. We have Smaila Idi Zanze, who is chairman Progressive Onion Sellers Association, also joining us. Kojo Oppong Nkrumah, thank you so very much for making the time to join us. Now, let me give you a sense of how some Ghanaians feel about Ghana's commitment in this process. And it appears Ghana is taking, a certain lead role, including hosting the defense chiefs in the last 2 days here in Accra. Alhaji Suleiman says, I urge all citizens of West Africa to rise and demonstrate against these clueless leaders who have plagued us with their incompetence. If they attempt to send troops to Niger, our generation is indeed suffering from leadership paralysis. Then Albert Senyo says, military action isn't the way to go. Diplomatic engagement will offer the opportunity to resolve military invasions over the last few years. Military invasions over the last few years haven't done any good. It's only worsened the plight of the very people we claimed to be helping. Mohammed Ibrahim says, I think what ECOWAS should do is to stop the Western countries from interfering in African issues. And let's work together as Africans. Osa Bonnie says that the force approach will worsen the situation. It demands a calm approach by meeting all the coup leaders for proper deliberation that could lead to a compromise. What if that is not working? Kwame Ochiri says, since the junta refused to hand over back power to the democratically elected government and coups are becoming rampant in West Africa, Nigerian press, or you mean Nigerian president, is held, the Nigerian president is held against his will, including the turmoil that will continue when military is in power. ECOWAS must act now. Good. Dennis Kwathi says this is geopolitics. Whether we join or not, we will still have an interest as to who we support. So I think the president has thought of it and think joining will help us. Nas Neti, They couldn't solve a problem between two clans for 27 years, but you want to go and solve the problem of another country in which majority of the people are not in support of the elected president anymore? Anson John says military strategy presupposes political end. All military problems are political, and all political problems are economic. He's quoting Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and says, fix the political ineptitude and economic incompetence first before going to Niger. ECOWAS. Owula Spee says, our soldiers have never fought any war in their lives. Are you sure about that? Except fight police officers and brutalize innocent Ashaman people. Warn the president not to use my tax to deploy our soldiers to this unwanted venture. Bar Real says, who exactly are they restoring the so-called democracy for? The people of Niger are fully in support of the military. Well, there are Nigerians in Ghana who have been telling you that they are not in support. They want President Bazoum back. These so-called leaders are nothing but puppets of the West. We'll explore that other angle and accusation that you have heard Samuel Kujeto mention. You've heard Professor Kwesi also hint at. I'm not too sure if I recall exactly Professor Sabuaji, making any reference to that, but I'm sure that Dr. Ken Ahosu also appeared to have hinted at that. Now, Laurie says corruption and mismanagement has led Niger into this mess. African states are shivering at the sight of military interventions. Who are shivering at the sight of military intervention should govern devoid of corruption and thievery. Our 60 billion Bank of Ghana saga is enough grounds to trigger us. We should just do the right thing. And a final one from Nana Opoku Ponsa. He says, as a Ghanaian, I am not in support of the decision by the government of Ghana to send our army to Niger. Well, you heard the defense minister. He says they are ready. Anytime the whistle is blown, they will go. The citizens of Niger are speaking to bad leadership and governance. Government of Ghana should focus on the mess in the country and pray same does not fail. We are not angry enough. So, it doesn't appear from what we are picking from the streets, at least from what people are telling us on air, that they want our government, to commit to this. But we are actively in the center of it.
Morning, and thanks for the opportunity to be part of this very privileged panel. I haven't seen many of them in a while. Professor Sabuaji, I think the last time I saw him was when he gave me a copy of his book on ECOWAS interventions or ECOMOG interventions in West Africa. So it's good to be part of this panel.
Right.
I think if you put a question to any rational person that should ECOWAS use diplomacy or force, I'll be surprised to hear any rational person say force. And I think the kind of responses that you are getting and which you are reading are because of how we have framed this conversation for our people. And in my submissions this morning, I will seek to highlight a few things that I think we should make dominant in our conversation. Now, let me start off by making 3 foundational comments, and I just have 5 points to make. The 3 foundational comments I'll make essentially are that it is appropriate that we are all concerned. We're all concerned about the kind of rhetoric that is coming out of ECOWAS and from citizens and every other place, because, instability is growing and can easily spread across the sub-region. Apart from that, there's also palpable evidence that geopolitics is playing a big role here. And, the West, be it Western Europe or Eastern Europe, is very interested in West Africa for their own economic interests. And now, even more than in times past, the, may I say, conditions are primed to have instability grow a bit further. So it is appropriate that we are all concerned about how this matter is resolved. Secondly, I think also respectfully, any conversation that appears to position this as a choice between diplomacy and force does not do full justice to what ECOWAS is confronted with, and I would explain that further. I think that if we want to have the conversation, we should posit the conversation in its full breadth. If we posit it in a manner that says, should we use diplomacy or force? One, we will get a very clear answer that says diplomacy. And two, that will not do full justice to the conversation here. And I know that's why, Dr. Kusini was commenting when I laughed earlier. Number three is that I think we need to be very, very, very careful to stick with what we know as fact and then put away conjecture and other things, especially as Sami Kujeta-Blakwa mentioned. There's a lot of propaganda that is being churned out to help various interests. And if you're not careful, you will base arguments on the propaganda and other sentiments and not the fact. But let me speak to my major points that I want to make as we go about this conversation. First of all, I believe, and I share the view that all the concerns that have been raised by the distinguished guests that you have here are legitimate. And those concerns have to be responded to as we go along, except for about two or three that I quickly think it's important to correct. In Ghana here, at least, it is not fair to make comments that suggest that Parliament is being ignored. In fact, on the 21st of August 2023, the Ministers of National Security and Foreign Affairs requested to brief the joint committees of Foreign Affairs and Defense and Interior on the development so far and what Ghana was considering. You notice that in my brother Sami's submissions, that came later. It was not front-loaded. The front-loaded submission suggested that Parliament was being ignored. But here in Ghana, we have briefed at our request, not at our invitation, at our request, the joint committees of Foreign Affairs and Defense and Interior. Again, the suggestion that Article 75 requires some prior parliamentary approval or ratification is incorrect. Article 75 is about treaties and agreements. It is not about contributing to a multilateral engagement, because when you have a multilateral engagement, as has happened in times past, and I can give you the whole retinue of times when Ghana has been involved in multilateral engagements. 2002 in Cote d'Ivoire, 2013 in Mali, 2016, 2017 in Gambia. If it is a multilateral engagement from a body that Ghana is part of, you do not require prior approval, but the decent thing to do, the important thing to do is to engage Parliament first so that you do full disclosures to Parliament about why you are, a part of this enterprise, what the risks are, how you are mitigating them. And of course, if some financial commitment is required from the Treasury, you will need to get them the kind of approval for it. So, as I've mentioned, I agree generally with all the sentiments that have been raised, but just to highlight these specific ones. Now, the concerns, as I mentioned, are very, very, very legitimate. Concerns like what Dr. Or what Colonel Festus of Waji raised, that are the hands of all ECOWAS countries totally clean as they purport to lecture or intervene in this matter? Or how does ECOWAS answer the questions of financing or funding some parts of this, even as you go along? Questions about how ready are we and whether or not we'll be doing, quote unquote, the dirty job of, Western masters. All of these are legitimate concerns that ECOWAS heads of state and ECOWAS countries owe answers to their populations about if and when we get there. But there is a fact that we are not including in our conversation, and I think that is what is swaying the whole conversation to that side. In fact, if you have, and I know you have, if you have followed, ECOWAS has not said that it is confronted with a choice between diplomacy and military intervention. I haven't heard ECOWAS say that. The two communiques issued by ECOWAS front-load diplomacy. In fact, in the insert of Commissioner Musa that you played, if you listen to what he says, and he's there, he can tell me if I'm misinterpreting him or not. His comments are that when you talk about the item 2, which is a possible use of force, they have answered the questions now. The chiefs of defense staff don't need to meet to examine the modus operandi or the details about the use of force if it comes to that point. They don't intend to meet again on it. They have clarity on when that can be triggered, that is D-Day, if need be. They have clarity on what resources, what they need to use if they have to do that. So the military guys have answered their question. But ECOWAS has not said that it does not have interest in diplomacy. In fact, since this matter happened, the brief I have is that there have been about 5 different diplomatic missions that have moved in. The first was President Talon of Benin, who went in to engage the military right on the onset with the approval of the head of the authority of heads of state. And then you had, I think, on the 30th of July, the Chadian president, Idriss Deby, who also went in with the concurrence of ECOWAS to do the second attempt at diplomacy. The third, if my brief is correct, was on the 2nd of August, the delegation led by the Nigerian head of state, the former head of state, Abubakar Salami, and then the Sultan of Sokoto. That was the delegation that initially they said they were not going to meet, and then subsequently they sent what we understand a very low-ranking officer to go and hear from them. Then on the 9th of August, the Emir of Kano and ex-governor of the central bank, Lamidu Sanusi, also then went in with the concurrence of ECOWAS leadership, I am told, to try another diplomatic engagement. Before the 12th of August diplomatic, or can I say a move by the Muslim clerics, Babalawo, and the rest, where some apologies came in. And from the brief that the government of Ghana has, ECOWAS is not closed to diplomatic interventions. But Samson, the reality is that, and I think as has been rightly mentioned, ECOWAS has a lot of work to do, first in terms of its own credentials and image on how it has handled things in times past. True. But one of the lessons that I think ECOWAS has to be humble enough and frontal enough to admit is that the option of naked diplomacy or diplomacy only has not borne the kind of results that we desire. And then, again, I make the point that the questions about whether everybody's hands are clean, the questions about, what will it cost, they are all legitimate. But they do not take away the fact that ECOWAS has lessons to learn from attempting to use naked diplomacy. And it is in that context that ECOWAS said, let's go ahead with diplomacy. But while we are doing that, let the standby force begin to mobilize. Let there be clarity that despite all the questions they may be within, first of all, the ECOWAS framework, secondly, about the potential for this particular mission, let there be clarity that diplomacy has to succeed. And that if diplomacy does not succeed within a certain time frame, then the use or the possible use of force is not off the table. Samson, the fourth item that I want to speak to is that it is important for us, all of us as commentators, to be clear, and I think it has started already in this conversation, that we support democracy. All this sort of insecurity and arbitrary acts across are not things that we support. And therefore, we want to encourage the military junta to see reason on a reasonable diplomatic arrangement with ECOWAS so that ECOWAS will not have to resort to a military intervention. And the risk is this. If the conversation is lopsided towards the risk, we cannot, we should not, what if, why if, we actually undermine the strength of ECOWAS in this entire enterprise. All of those questions are legitimate. They are legitimate risks. They are legitimate questions. But I think that we need to front load the conversation with a call on the military junta, all forces of democracy, with a call on the military junta that it is in our best interest to agree on a democratic, on a diplomatic resolution to this matter, so that we don't have to get to a point where ECOWAS has to bring in military intervention and answer all the military questions. I'll give you, just a bit of data in my final point. It is theoretically and sometimes sentimentally appropriate to raise the question of what causes military coups in various parts of the world, including West Africa. But I think if you look specifically at what has happened in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, they were quite clear on why they did it. And in all of those instances, with the greatest of respect, it was not necessarily about what you call bad governance or unconstitutional rule. In fact, in Burkina, the issue was about security, jihadist elements, and terrorism. And the argument was that the civilian authorities were not being robust enough in dealing with it. And therefore, if the military operatives took over, they could do a better job. We have to ask ourselves a question and look at the hard data. Has the military takeover stabilized, reduced, or rather worsened the jihadist or Islamic incidents there, which was the reason that they gave for it? In Mali, we had the reasons that were given. Those reasons, again, security in nature. In fact, in Niger, and with the greatest of respect, if you go back to the announcement that was given by the persons who executed this coup in Niger, there was not, and there has not been, by the official spokespersons of this enterprise, any French claims in this. And that's why I say we have to distinguish between what we know as a fact and the commentary and things that we are seeing around social media. In fact, their premise was two. They talked about jihadism, terrorism, and then what they called economic mismanagement. Across these places, has jihadism, terrorism stabilized, gone down, or worsened? In fact, in Burkina Faso, if you look at the data now, it is worsening. If you look at
even in Niger, there has been an uptick.
Absolutely. If you look at the data from the African Center for Strategic Studies, the data is quite clear that in Mali, the insecurity, terrorist attacks, human rights abuses is actually worsening. And like you rightly mentioned, in Niger, in the last, I think, 1.5 weeks, the data suggests about 35 people have been killed, 17 in one recent attack. So I make the point that and I'll explain why, while theoretically and even sentimentally, it makes sense to have a conversation about the causes and the triggers. If you add that to the specific instances of Burkina, Mali, Niger that we are discussing, what you are doing ends up undermining a certain legitimate conversation, which is that, and I will not say constitutionally, because people can meddle with constitutions and play games, democratically elected governments being overthrown by military adventurists is something that collectively, I think we collectively oppose it, collectively we must speak against it. And in this specific case, it has not led to what they claimed it was going to lead to. So to end my submissions, yes, there are legitimate concerns. Ken Officer Zawaji raises them, Bashirning raises them, Sami raises them. But I think that the front-loading of our commentary should be to encourage the military junta not to play the games that Mali and Burkina have been playing under the guise of diplomacy, but to come to the table with a clear, diplomatic, acceptable layout that resolves this matter as quickly as possible.
Right.
My worry is that when we lopside our conversation towards the risks which are legitimate, the challenges which are legitimate, we end up emboldening them and we don't get a strong position enough. Those will be my opening submissions.
All right. Thank you very much. And as you admit, I believe that our panel of experts have been very thorough and their expertise is duly appreciated, and that the discussion is not necessarily lopsided, even though you have a wish and prayer that there will be a certain framing as to what comes first, second, and last. But I think that we can grant them from their from their backgrounds and wealth of experience, what they believe is the best approach. Now, let me come to you now, and thank you once again for your patience, Abdul Fattah Musa, who until last July was the director of the West Africa and Sahel at the United Nations headquarters in New York. You heard Dr. Kenneth Festus-Aboagye say, number one, there is no just cause for your threats, for what you want to do. And he outlined the reasons, using facts, if you like, sacred facts, not propaganda. You heard Professor Enim say that he repeated what he has told us here the last time I engaged him on the show, that you will not dare do what you are claiming you will do. And when Kojo says some of these may actually not be as helpful, I appreciate where he's coming from, because we should be discouraging the junta rather than statement that may suggest that or embolden them. I've come from an international lawyers conference where we all said we don't want these things to happen. So we want to urge them to restore democracy. But we're all as lawyers also concerned that some are abusing the democracy when you give it to them. And all the other things that you have heard said. So, first of all, why do you come to this decision when you have not come to a point where you can conclusively say that diplomacy will not work? Because you admit that recently they appear to be open to having discussions.
Thank you very, very much for having me once more. And I am really between the rock and the hard place here, right? Yeah, because everybody on the show, one way or the other, we are very connected.
Yeah.
Honorable Ablakwa here, Professor Kwesieni is a very good friend. We've known each other for a century, maybe. And Kenel Aboagye, we've worked a lot. And I'm happy that Honorable Kojo Oppong Nkrumah for coming to my aid in certain aspects. So at least I have an ally.
Yeah. and he's not alone. There are other people who are sharing commentary with me about the fact that your last communique, emphasized the primacy of peaceful resolution.
Yeah.
Except that the forceful resolution will be the last resort.
The last resort.
Yeah. And you have many very good friends sending me messages and sending their goodwill messages to you.
Okay, no.
You know George Bernard Shaw?
Oh, of course.
He also says, I should say hi to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. And on the other hand, Honorable Ablakwa is telling me that Kwesi Francis, he will pond me. Okay. Look, I just want to probably have a structured intervention somehow, which would also take into account some of the concerns that have been raised.
All right.
The first and foremost is the causal factors of what is happening in the country. And I think Honorable Nkrumah has already shed light on some of them. That since about 2019, 2020, we know the havoc that COVID wreaked on the global economy. I was in the US. In fact, all the shops were rationing toilet paper at one point. I'm just giving you one small one. 2 weeks ago, I was in the UK. Some of the shelves in the shops were empty. Gas prices have shot up manifold, in the country. And you can cite examples. So if these, so-called most developed countries are facing the crunch, then you can think of Africa, with our weak infrastructure, weak, potential.
Because of our bad governance over the
exactly.
decades.
And if, because of these challenges, the military has to take over power, then the whole world will be under military rule. Okay, with the Ukraine crisis and its impact, particularly in the Sahel and other places, is going to be even worse. So I admit that there is governance deficit, okay, all across, our countries, and there is democracy deficit also. People should understand that the democracy, liberal democracy that we know it today, is barely 30 years in West Africa. In the US, where democracy has been there for centuries and other things, Trump still not accepting the outcome of the last results. And there were, foreign interference in the election that caused Hillary Clinton to lose the elections. That's also the external influence. In a country like the US, so I just want to talk about that. But when you come to that, cool zone, in our country, it starts from the western tip of the Atlantic Ocean, Gulf of Guinea, Senegal, all the way to the Red Sea. There is a belt that straddles the Sahara and then the tropical Africa, the south, the coastal countries and all that. And all of them are impacted from Senegal to Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Chad, Sudan. All of them. Okay, it is not just the Francophone. Sudan is not a Francophone country, for example. And we have to understand one thing. Mali has been the bad boy in the politics of France. Guinea. Guinea was the first to say we are not going to be part of Francophrique by declaring independence in 1958. It was Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of Ghana, who bailed Guinea out when the French were even removing nails from doors to make sure that they will punish Secretariat and his country for disobeying them. Up till today, Guinea does not use the franc CFA. They use their own money. Okay, so just context. So the thing is that what is the commonality of the threats in that place? You can talk about governance deficit. It is jihadism. It is terrorism, which is actually afflicting these countries. And as Honorable Nkrumah said, the number one reason given for the coups in Mali, in Burkina Faso, and now in Niger is insecurity. The others are there.
Plus mismanagement.
Yes, corruption. Mismanagement. Yeah. No, they were listing all these characteristics. Burkina Faso's election that retained Kabore for a second term was adjudged by everybody as the freest in the continent. In fact, all the processes leading to that election were consensually agreed among all the political parties. So you cannot say, that the Kabore was instrumentalizing anybody so that he will remain in power. All of them accepted, and all the opposition parties accepted. When Kabore was leaving office, about 35% of the territory was under jihadist occupation. That is one thing we need to know. There were 700,000 refugees, internally displaced people in Burkina Faso. There have been 2 coups since. And what's the situation? Today, 70% of Burkina Faso is outside state control. 2 million internally displaced people from 700,000. 2 million. And you can see that for Mali, you can see that for Niger, where we just recorded an uptick in terrorist attacks in the country, which undermines the fact that the civilians were worse.
You actually issued a statement to condemn that.
We issued a statement to condemn the terrorist attack in okay. So for me, that is the issue, right? And ECOWAS is a rules-based organization, right? At least imperfect, but we have rules. In fact, ECOWAS protocols set the basis for even AU protocols. I mean, the charters and other things by AU. They all borrowed from ECOWAS. ECOWAS was the pace setter. 3 years ago, all the 15 member states in ECOWAS were under democratic rule, elected president. And then within 3 years, like you said, there have been 7 coups. ECOWAS made mistakes, and I must admit it, right? That the tough measures that we adopt when there is a military coup pales in comparison with our very weak attitude towards elected presidents who weaponize the judiciary, instrumentalize the military, just for the purpose, of changing their constitutions and staying on in power. The situation in Guinea was very clear. You may excuse what was happening there with the third term of Ouattara, because he actually had a candidate who died on the eve of the elections and things like that, and his argument was that there was no time to replace him before the elections and all that. But that is beside the point. We made mistakes before. Does it mean that we must accept wrongdoing because there were faults before? There is a new dynamic. ECOWAS today is under a new administration at the commission level and at the level of the chairmanship of the ECOWAS authority. And everybody knows the democratic credentials of Bola Tinubu. He tasted prison for his fight against military dictatorships in his country. Just like I must say, also Ghana, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo was one of the key pillars of the Kumepreko demonstrations and other things in Ghana that eventually led to the restoration of constitutional order in Ghana. So the decision that have been made is that this coup is one coup too many. We must draw the line in the sand. And that is with regard to, so that is the context that we have. But Colonel Abuaje is, from the military background. I'm not going to challenge him on the military front at all, because I don't think maybe there'll be no match, for him. But on the protocols, I think he's getting, a few things mixed up. That is very important to clarify. ECOWAS array of tools, in conflict resolution is not necessarily sequential. It's not necessarily sequential, that you go from here and then you go there and then you go there. No, it depends upon the circumstance. They could be sequential, they can be a combination. And also saying, that the sanctions regime does not envisage this. And I mean, he corrected himself somehow by saying all other means. And I want to remind viewers that there is a supplementary act of ECOWAS of 2012 that expanded on the sanctions regime, including all the sanctions that are being imposed on Niger today. And they happened when Sanogo, overthrew the democratically elected government, Ibeka, in 2012. I
referred to that in my very first question to Colonel Abuaje on this show.
Very good.
But Professor Enin is asking the question. This will not be the end. Niger will not be the end. Will this approach be the approach to the next?
So that is why I'm telling you that, look, we applied those severe and widespread sanctions against Sanogo's regime. Within 3 days, they relented. They relented. And a civilian transitional president was elected. I don't think it was the perfect, it ended up in a whole lot of tensions there, about that, but at least those sanctions worked. And that is why ECOWAS did not move to the next step, right? But it has been a bit inconsistent since then. And that's what I am admitting. So now
Professor referred to your sanctions and what you have now been told by Martin Griffiths, the Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief Coordination at the UN. He wrote to you and said that the unintended adverse impact of some of your sanctions, and he gives a list of how the impact is very terrible and you need to do something about. And he ended by saying that he's looking forward to working with you to ensure that the population of Niger who has been directly affected by the crisis can receive the necessary humanitarian assistance.
Oh yes, in the military planning, that has been taking place, the unintended consequences, the collateral, impact of any intervention were all taken into account, right, in it, including collaboration with UN humanitarian agencies. These were all taken into account. So I think his question is talking about the sanctions now. We've been working with his office, Griffith, actually to open up before now humanitarian corridors in Burkina, in Mali, and other places. So it is not anything new. We've been working on it. But if they tell you about the dire humanitarian consequences in Burkina Faso in particular today, I mean, what is happening in Niger pales into comparison. What have the humanitarian agencies done? Because the situation is under the control of terrorists, right? If you go 15 kilometers outside Ouaga or outside Bobo Dioulasso, which is the second city, it is no-go area, controlled by jihadists. Another thing, how are you going to enter there with humanitarian, support? And today, terrorists are increasing their attacks in Niger. So even if you have humanitarian support that you are going to give them, how are you going to reach those who need the support?
So you are seeking to underscore the justness of the course or the approach.
Yes, this is what once again we are saying. People are saying we are going to war with Niger and they are opposed to it. Let me clarify. We are not going to war. In the whole planning of this intervention, the word war never features even once. But as Colonel Abuaje will himself admit, the fact that we are preparing does not mean we are going to war. Military preparations take time. It doesn't mean that it is imminent. Okay, we said we have an array of tools. In Nigeria, people are saying, oh, this is a war between Nigeria and Niger, brother countries. In fact, the two were actually one entity before the French and the British decided to carve up Africa. The same thing like the Gambia and Senegal, today, and the same thing like even Transvolta, Togoland, the same thing in Cameroon and other, which happened. It is those were some of the downside of the arbitrariness of colonial, carve up of the African, continent. So the people are the same, there. So you can see, you can feel the tension there. But in Nigeria, President Tinubu never went to Senate to request any authorization, never.
Yeah, but Okujeto was clear about that.
He informed them about decisions of ECOWAS. And then they, on their own, said that they did not actually rule out the military option. They said they want to engage President Tinubu on the peaceful, for the resolution of the crisis in a peaceful way. So, going to my point, we are not at war with Niger. The whole concept of operation, which is being prepared, it is based on targeted, surgical operations in that place. We are at war with the junta.
That is all things being equal, but this is not the situation.
Yeah, okay.
You are planning a surgical operation
precisely.
to go in and remove the junta.
But things could change. That is
exactly.
in the military parlance.
Exactly.
Okay, so that is why we
and already, also, as we mentioned, there is some response to what you did in Accra yesterday.
Yeah, we are taking into account the possible fallout when we get there. We also have our intelligence. When people are saying about the popularity of the regime and other thing, listen, there are foreign powers in West Africa that are cultivating bot farms with artificial comments on social media and other things, whipping up a certain narrative.
But we saw on television the people pouring out in their numbers.
Yeah, no, precisely. You can rent a crowd. Okay, those people, many of them
appeared rather spontaneous.
Many of them were at the stadium, gathered at the stadium to meet emissaries who they considered favorable to the junta. This is what, you have to get the nuance. And then on social media, they are showing the burning of the ruling party's headquarters at the Nigerian embassy. In that country, and there are tailors and others in the country that are sewing Russian flags and distributing them. All this funded. We have that information. Second, in that country, why did the CNSP dismiss the commander of the gendarmerie?
CNSP is the junta?
Yes, the CNSP is the junta. They dismissed the commander of the National Guard National, which two institutions, forces, wanted to organize a counter coup against those people holding President Bazoum hostage. And then there was a lot. Later on, things will come out, and then you will see. They were dismissed, and their number twos were co-opted into the junta. Okay, and now we have Risa Agbula, who was Tuareg rebel leader during the Tuareg wars. This country, Niger, is the one that managed diversity better than any of the countries in the Central Sahel. In fact, they had stopped the Tuareg rebellion. The Tuaregs have been incorporated. Today, this Agbula is saying that, okay, so if you don't want the minority, because the country is overwhelmingly Hausa, Kanuri, and Jerma, which they call in Ghana here Zamrama. Okay, those are the elites over there. The Arabs constitute just about 0.4% of the population. And the Tuareg also a minority. They say, oh, is that it? So they have created what they call the National Council for Resistance Council for the Republic. So internally, there are fissures. And you yourself just said about demonstrations in Accra here. We see some...
So this particular last point you make...
Yes.
Makes it imperative.
Yeah.
The intervention you seek to make.
Yeah.
Your intervention...
Yes.
Will rather, that is if diplomacy fails,
yes,
your intervention will rather forestall what might become...
What might be a worse situation in the country.
Okay.
And what we are saying is, we are not at war with Niger, we are at war with the junta, with the CNSP, and that is the target of the operations. Yeah, so there should be a difference here, there's a nuance, in it. Having said that, I think my brother Opon Nkrumah also stressed that point. ECOWAS has never removed it made the military intervention its preferred option. At any particular moment, we have mentioned that it is the least preferred option. And I want to go diplomacy, and then the midway point is also coercive diplomacy through the sanctions. And if everything fails, okay, and why did ECOWAS get to that point? These people were thumbing their noses at the heads of state, of the community, when General Abdul Salami, who worked a lot in Niger. In 2009, I was with him at that time to help restore constitutional order after this what
president of Nigeria.
Constitutional coup by Tanja. Yeah, he was sent there, and he and then what Emir of Sokoto, they were confined to the airport. Later on, myself as part of a mission, ECOWAS, AU, UN, were on the way to the airport to go there, still on the diplomatic path. Then they sent us message that they were not ready to receive us.
But you should not feel aggrieved and react in equal measure, because you are the one, seeking to be diplomatic, to secure a diplomatic solution.
Precisely, but that is exactly what we are doing. But listen to me, the moment after
but now you are threatening them
after the 10th
in
August,
very clear terms that you will strike.
Yes, after the 10th August meeting, that was when they sent information through back channels to Sanusi, who is the Emir of Kano, former one. Yeah, that they were ready to talk without directly coming to us. So pressure went. And then when we, when this meeting of the Committee of Chiefs of Defense Staff was postponed, the information we got was that Asante Hene had told the president that Ghana should not host the meeting, so it had been cancelled. That was what was on the social media. Instead of giving the facts.
That seemed to have emboldened them a bit.
Emboldened them a bit because Ghana was not going to take part, and then, whatnot. And then when they saw that we were coming here Thursday and Friday to hold this second meeting, then that the new Prime Minister, Zain, now called and said they were ready to receive the delegation.
Okay.
Yes, and then some people close to them have been calling me while here. So if you had just sat down and said, okay, we are there, you are knocking on the door and they are not responding, and you are sitting down, what else do you do as
we return to the question,
organization?
The question about because I'm getting from what you're just saying in the last few seconds, that the risk that people talk about to Ghana is real. Because of the developments that you are mentioning, that there was actually the attempt that Ghana should not host. Why should Ghana not host this meeting? Because of the risk. And Ghana has gone ahead to host, and there is some fear, and they are beginning, to sort of give in. Now, the question that is being asked is, how is this being funded? Of course, we have been told about how the Nigerian senators came together and said we don't want this because of the direct impact. Earlier I said about 6 of the states, but I think it's about 7. Sokoto, Kebbi, Katsina, Zamfara, Jigawa, Yobe, and Borno
That's
states.
The northern senators, those bordering Niger.
Right. Who is funding this?
Okay.
The Nigerians say, in any case, we are poor, we don't have money, people are hungry. So Ghana, we're broke. So who's funding this?
Yeah, thank you. Let me just, a way of answering your question. And I think all these issues were raised by Colonel Abuaje, and it was also raised by Honorable Ablakwa, here. That, do you know that ECOWAS?
Dr. Ken Ahosu also raised it.
Also raised it. Ahosu, yeah, sorry.
Right.
In fact, he's someone I met, I missed. Ahosu, I hope you forgive me for not acknowledging that. Ghana adopted its plan of action for the eradication of terrorism in 2019, with an annual budget of, what is it, 2.4 billion, dollars. And we said we're going to fund it. It was, first they said voluntary contribution. Of course, people have mentioned Nigeria 25 million, Ghana 5 million, and other. There is a whole lot of stories behind that. When the new administration came, that is what I'm telling you. Since 2019, ECOWAS has not attempted even to activate the kinetic force to fight terrorism. This new administration said never. What do you say, eradication of terrorism, and you are saying that? So we were planning, to activate the standby force to go and help countries like Burkina Faso, and in cooperation, I visited here, went to the field, headquarters of the Accra Initiative in Tamale, with a Bendere and then others. See how we could collaborate, to make sure we take on the terrorists over there. So that was on course. And ministers of finance were due to meet with the ministers of defense based on what we had prepared. And this is what I'm going to tell you about when people are saying that we are going to fall into the hands of external forces. I just say the heads of state says this must be funded on a compulsory, mandatory basis by member states. ECOWAS is the organization in Africa that almost 80% funds its own activities from the community levy. The AU is less than about 30%. Okay, so ECOWAS is very unique, in that area. They said we are going to fund it if it means increasing even the community levy by a fraction of a percentage. To raise that money, we are going to do it. That was on course. We had also given a lot of money from the ECOWAS community budget to these countries under terrorist, these attacks, for equipment and others. That is not broadcast and things like that. Then this coup came and diverted everything. Okay, so how do we get back to fighting the immediate cause of all this insecurity in the region, which is the cascading terrorism, which is impacting, northern Ghana, the number of refugees and others. So what I will tell you is that during the meeting yesterday and the day before yesterday, all member states, and I heard Colonel Abuaji say Togo was not going. Togo made concrete pledges yesterday. Concrete pledges. Yes, for the force. All the countries, those who have promised battalions and others, I can't give you the figures for security reasons, but all of them made very concrete contributions, which we are taking to the heads of state.
The armed forces personnel strength for the ECOWAS, as we know, is supposed to be, is it 489,000 strong, right? And as Sami hinted, as we understand that what you need for what you are going to do should be at least 1,000.
You said 50,000.
150 or 50,000? 50,000.
That is speculation.
That's speculation.
That's speculation.
And even that we can't get.
We have our concrete figure, but I won't disclose it. It is far, far, far less than what is being told. Look, what Niger force strength is about 13,000. 13,000. The whole force strength of Niger. We don't need up to 50,000, troops to go and confront 13,000, which are not even a monolith in the country in the first place. So all these pledges were made. And I want also to assure Colonel Abuaji that the force commander has been designated. The deputy force commander has been designated. And ECOWAS is supposed to now develop the civilian administration, to cover it, because the civilian, aspect of the force. All these cannot be announced until the heads of state and government give their seal of approval.
Okay. So when you do, and as you said, this defense chiefs will not meet again unless in the course.
Yes.
So how do you intend to engage the local communities in Niger to ensure that the deployment is well received? Because you say that you are not going for Nigerians, you are going for the junta.
Yes.
How are you going to do that?
Very good. I activated the ECOWAS Commission, just, when all this occurred, the crisis response mechanism. One of the key axes of that is strategic communication, which is already being worked out. Yesterday, I met a group of media experts in Ghana, here, to see how we could benefit from them. Like we said, in Nigeria, we are doing the same. So there is a crisis communication that is being developed at the headquarters level and within the planning of the military. There is a psychop. If you ask Colonel Abuaji, he will tell you about that. It is about psychological operations. You know, when you are confronted with such a situation, we have taken all those elements on board, you know, as I speak to you. You know, so, when it comes to military planning and other things, it is about winning.
You did indicate that you know for a fact that there's going to be the spillover effects.
Yeah.
Because even though you intend to do a surgical operation, that is if it gets there.
Yes.
Because the primacy is diplomacy.
Mm-hmm.
How do you intend to mitigate the risk that come as a result of the spillover? And I'm asking this because we ought to be sure when, for example, our foreign mission will begin to say Ghanaians or whoever it is start moving, or we start what do you call it? Not a deployment. How do you repatriate our citizens and so on
from there? Yes. You see, so this is the classical civil war or natural calamity, whatnot. People have been trying to get their citizens out of places like Sudan over the war. This is it's very dissimilar, you know, to those situations that you are talking about.
Countries like the US and others had asked their citizens to look for private transportation means to get out.
Before the elections in Nigeria, the Americans and the British were evacuating their citizens. It is their modus operandi everywhere, even Liberia.
So there will not be a need for this?
No, I mean Liberia, which was their colony, when Charles Taylor invaded, the first thing they did, that was where they had all their gadgets for West Africa. What they did was evacuate everybody and leave ECOWAS to carry the hot potato. So this is the modus operandi of these powers, and that's why I say that we don't rely on any of them.
Yeah, so that's back to my question.
Yes,
but you are saying that if it comes to this, and you activate the standby force, there will not be the need for evacuation of foreign nationals.
No, we have activated the force. It's not activating them. We've activated it when it comes to deployment. Okay, so the second phase is the deployment, and which the timing and everything. But there are caveats, you know, to the D-Day that we are talking about. So the D-Day can shift depending upon the progress on the mediation front, you know, right? But the thing is that we must be ready. For in any situation like that, it is the ability to project force even without using it. You know, that is one of the key elements of, you know, this power diplomacy that we have. And this is what we are doing. And we have indicated in our planning what will be done when there is a humanitarian crisis, right, in the region, together with the international humanitarian agencies coordinating, you know, with that, first and foremost the UN. Everything is in the planning, and of course I cannot predict what exactly is going to happen. There is that possibility, and we have made contingency plans for that. Right. So this is what, you know, what I was saying with regard to that.
I'm coming. I need to take a quick break, and when we return, we'll have some 30 minutes, and I will have my guests give us not more than 2 minutes of comments or statements. However, I will speak to a Ghanaian in Niger to give us some idea on how they're feeling and what the temperature or the tempo in the country is. We will be right back. We've just been speaking to Abdul Fattah. Abdul Fattah Musa, who until last July was a director of West Africa and the Sahel at the United Nations headquarters in New York. He is a commissioner in the ECOWAS. We'll be right back.
Oh, Charlie, close the window small. Your room be too bright, oh.
Why, you be vampire where you know they like sunlight?
Oh, my guy, my eyes. Behind the PC problem. In the sun problem. Common light bulb stuff.
This no matter. I beg go Robert and Sons. Oh yeah, then my chick to him, I know correct. Cry. Where Robert and Sons sort them out sharp. Now so stylish frames in the rock.
We go Robert and Sons right in. No, I was sitting inside proper.
For over 25 years, Robert & Sons continues to provide specialist eye care for both adults and children. Locate us at Adabraka, Adenta, Kumasi, Usudankwa, Tema, Weja, and East Legon. Call 050-151-9111. Robert & Sons, seeing is believing.
My way insurance, my way,
My name is Nanama McBrown, and I want to encourage you to dial *165# on MTN to join the My Way family. My Way provides you and a selected family member a cover against death. As a policyholder, you will also have a cover against total permanent disability and hospitalization should you be hospitalized for more than 2 nights. Dial *165# and join the family. Sanya My Way. No way.
My Way is a product of My Life and MTN Momo. Terms and conditions apply.
Joy 99.7 FM.
My cookie dipped in strawberry yogurt. On this scorching hot afternoon on our way back from a long job hunt, we met this good Samaritan who offered us a ride.
6 weeks later,
big night to Shania, special wedding reception for her bride and groom.
And there she is, my cookie, dipped in someone else's yogurt.
Don't be like John, who holds the mullah, calls the shot. Play game by games, the easiest lottery to play and win. Pick 4 numbers from 0 to 9 up to 3 times daily to become one of our daily lucky winners. Dial *946# to play now. Or you can also play online at www.gamepackgames.com. Game Park is regulated by the National Lottery Authority.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to demonstrate to you the superior properties of Flamingo paint. As compared to other paint brands on the market, we take equal quantities of Flamingo paint and this ordinary paint. We then dilute them with water. And now, let the test begin. The gentleman on the left is going to apply the ordinary paint, and the gentleman on my right will use the Flamingo superior paint. As you can clearly see, Flamingo has the obvious better hiding. Furthermore, Flamingo has painted a much larger area. You know, 1 bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint is made with superior formulation to give superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior.
Daddy, this tank is big.
Yes, that's true.
It can store a lot of water.
That's so true.
Wow, it has a working tortoise on it.
That's so true.
I can see S-I-N-T-E-X. Syntax.
That is so true, my daughter.
But it falls down, it will spoil.
That's not true.
But why?
Yay!
Syntex was the first to introduce double-layer tanks in Ghana. Syntex again was the first to introduce white inner layers in Ghana. Syntex gives you the biggest warranty, 7 years. No matter your water needs, Syntex is the answer. Syntex tank. Are you strong? Are you tough?
My name is Tina. I am a person living with HIV. I got to know my HIV status after I gave birth and lost the child because of HIV. In those days, prevention of mother-to-child transmission services had low patronage due to fear and stigmatization. Today, Many HIV positive women have delivered negative children. I follow the guidelines and take my HIV medicine called ARVs every day as prescribed by my doctor. This makes me strong and healthy and also prevent me from passing HIV onto any future child. Please avail yourself of PMTCT services when pregnant. It is the only way to ensure you do not pass the HIV onto your baby during birth or pregnancy. If you have tested for HIV recently and it was negative, test again when pregnant. If you have tested positive, go to the hospital after birth as directed by your healthcare provider. Your baby will be given medicine immediately and tested to ensure baby and mother are well. Let us work together to have an HIV-free generation.
Our children must be free to shine.
States of ECOWAS present here today have all committed elements. They have committed their own equipment. They have committed their own resources to undertake this mission. So I tell you, we are ready to go anytime the order is given. The D-Day is also decided, which we are not going to disclose. There will be no more meetings of the chiefs of defense staff. If there will be, it will be probably in the course of the operation if there is the need to adjust the operation. This is the second extraordinary meeting and the final meeting before deployment.
Right. And that's Ambassador Dr. Abdul Fattah Musa, Commissioner, Political Affairs, Peace and Security of the ECOWAS. Earlier you heard us speak to Kojo Nkrumah, MP of Fwasia Yerebi and Minister for Information. Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa is also here in the studio, MP North Tong and Ranking Member, Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament. Colonel Festus B. Abuaje, retired. He is author, conflict and security analyst, consultant on UN and AU joint planning for AU peace support operations, UNDP consultant on disarmament, South Sudan. He does other things. Professor Kwesi Enin, Director, Faculty of Academic Affairs and Research, Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. Dr. Ken Hosu, Senior Research Fellow, Head of Peace and Security Studies and Head of PhD Programs at Lesia University of Ghana. Joining us for a very quick, in 2 minutes, two gentlemen who are in Niger speak to us in the next just about 4 minutes, and then I'll get my guests 2 minutes each and their concluding comments as to what the next steps ought to be in the Niger situation. Seydou Abudu is president, the Ghanaian community in Niger. Seydou, thank you so very much. You have been very patient with us. You joined us from the very start, and you get to speak to us in just about 2 minutes.
Okay.
What's the sense of acceptance or opposition to what ECOWAS is planning in Niger, for Niger?
Okay, thank you very much. Greeting to your viewers. Right now, what I can say is what ECOWAS is planning to do in Niger, if it's true that it comes on, is going to affect the Ghanaians and the foreigners in this country. It's not going to be easy for us because right now, many people are trying to attack the foreigners if the ECOWAS make any move to attack Niger.
How do you know that?
According to the sources, I don't want to comment on the political side because as a Ghanaian president, Ghana community president in Niger, our focus is to maintain how we can protect the Ghanaians in this country. But as you all know, 1 + 1 is 2. That one, no one is going to tell you. And one thing which is worrying is right now all the borders has been closed, and they are declaring Niger as no plane, and what we are in right now.
Are you in any way in touch with the Ghanaian authorities, the mission, the foreign affairs of Ghana, and are you being taken through any sort of preparations so that in case there is any difficulty, there will be some way out for you?
Yeah, since the coup d'etat, we are always have some engagement with the Ghana embassy, the mission here. Time to time, we are having some meeting with them to see how much we can protect the Ghanaians. But right now, our difficulty is when we heard that ECOWAS is going to use force, all the borders has already been closed. So right now, even if there's any evacuation, how the leaders are going to evacuate the foreigners in this country? That is going to be difficult. Right now that I'm speaking, the French people has already evacuated all their nationals here. So it has remained only the foreigners, the West Africa countries. So once the borders are closed, the question that we are asking right now is if there's any evacuation. I don't think it will be possible for us to evacuate because all the borders has been closed. And if ECOWAS is going to use force, that one is another matter because we, the foreigners, is going to affect us a lot.
All right. Thank you very much. Let me speak to Ibrahima Bobakar Salo. He is an analyst and media consultant. Thank you for joining us from Niger. Because you are a media person and you are within this country, what's the sense of acceptance again or opposition to what ECOWAS is seeking to do?
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to give my point of view. But I would like to be fair with my friend Abdou in Niger. I think Nigerian people are really appreciating how ECOWAS populations are supporting Niger against the ECOWAS project to intervene in Niger. I think there is a big difference between ECOWAS populations in Niger and maybe France population. And even for France, I saw many different French people at different rally organized in Niger. So I don't think if foreigners are really there is a problem with foreigners in Niger, but I can understand Seydou when he said what he just said. Yeah. So about the ECOWAS decision to intervene in Niger, I think there is a fact that it's important to precise because this is a really and the very, very, very first time we see this kind of mobilization, this kind of popular mobilization. People coming from everywhere, showing support to the state, showing support to the nation, showing support to Niger because I think there's a difference between maybe Junta and Niger. The ECOWAS speech is mobilizing people because people don't want Niger to be attacked by others. When Musa tried to make a difference or nuance, what he called nuance between a surgical intervention and a war, I don't think if Nigerians are perceiving it like that, and I don't think if it is like that. For people, it is just, okay, there was a coup in Mali, there was a coup in Burkina, but it's because the ECOWAS doesn't respect Niger that ECOWAS decided to intervene in Niger. And also it's because France has his basis in Niger that ECOWAS decided. People are not really now able to understand all what Musa is trying to understand to Niger. I think there is nothing more mobilizing people than this way and this project to intervene in Niger. And on the other hand, I think this for people is not really the solution because when you say to militaries, their job is to make war, Their job is to defend the country. When you decide to dissuade them, when you decide to attack them, it is not for them reason to give up. It's on contrary a reason to be really engaged and committed to defend. So this is not, it's really perceived by Nigerian, by the militaries and by others analysts as a war. There is no way for ECOWAS to intervene in Niger without crisis in Niger. There is no difference between Niger militaries and also Niger population. When Niger is 1,200,000 kilometers superficie. So intervening in Niger, how the ECOWAS can come to Niamey, and that's why people think it's really France who is behind this, because France is in Niamey with his basis, so it's very easy for France to intervene and open doors.
So I get a sense. I get a sense.
Go straight ahead. So
I get a sense, Ibrahima, that the junta would like to, as it were, give in to the diplomatic processes, especially also because already you are suffering under the sanctions. So life is not the best for you at this time. So they would rather prefer to sit down and negotiate than wait for any such attack, right?
Yes, this is the fact. Indeed, people are suffering. Even now, we just face lack of energy, and yes, there's sanction, and people maybe start feeling the sanction on their life. But there is, even at this point, to show you how people are really committed, even sanction, and how people can suffer from this sanction. People are living it like a kind of freedom, like a kind of sacrifice they have to do to have real independence. So I think all the ECOWAS speeches are not helping ECOWAS to really have...
Thank you very much, Ibrahima Boubacar Salo. He is an analyst and media consultant in Niger. And we also spoke to Seydou Abudu, president, Ghanaian community in Niger. He's a Ghanaian, and they are scared that in the case of an attack, they don't know how they are going to get out of that place. Now, let me get to my guests on Zoom, then come to the studio, and I will plead with all of you to try to give your concluding comments in a minute or a minute and 30 seconds. Let me begin with Colonel Festus Abuaji.
Thank you, Samson. First of all, I would wish to suggest strongly that ECOWAS should take into serious consideration very potential risks around the security situation in Niger, two, the geopolitical dynamics that could unfold, three, the humanitarian aspects as a result of the impact of any military operation, and all of that around the potential fragmentation of ECOWAS, undermining the regional integration effort. Now, next, every war, whether it's intervention or whatever, also involves or entails a media campaign. And ECOWAS, I posted on my Facebook, is not winning the media campaign war. So ECOWAS needs to feed its audiences with the requisite information. A lot of the things that Dr. Abdul Fattah Musa has said should have been available to all of us, so we can have a constructive debate.
Okay.
And then finally, if you may permit me, my view still stands that ECOWAS's strategy of the military intervention lacks international political support. So that is a critical factor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Dr. Kwesi Enin, you are still where you are. This will not happen. Diplomacy is the only way out. Even if it doesn't work, then what? Nothing happens?
There will be no intervention. And I think from what we are all saying, diplomacy has been given a chance. ECOWAS needs this space to regain its credibility. what we will be seeing is a negotiation process in which we will find or come to a win-win situation where there will be a transition plan. Because the mere or the sheer geopolitical ramifications of a military intervention means that the unintended impact will be much more negative, not only on Niger, but on the wider sub-region. And I'm happy that ECOWAS and the regime in Niger are using the mediation option now. And that convinces me that the military option is on the back burner. ECOWAS needs to go into any mediation or negotiation.
All right.
A position of strength.
All right. Thank you so very much, Professor Kwesi Enin. Kojo Nkrumah, what will be your final words? Of course, I appreciate that.
Something very quickly.
You want all of us to project the primacy of diplomacy.
Yeah, I think the submissions of Ibrahima Boubacar are a good feedback point to ECOWAS. The point is that in the minds of Nigerians, in the minds of people of the West Africa, it appears as though all ECOWAS is saying is that we are going to war. And I think that is good feedback that ECOWAS needs to drum home the two options that it is embarking upon, which is the diplomatic option first, but with the gun on the table as a clear and well-articulated option. Number two, I think that we in civil society and media also have a responsibility not to frame the conversation in a way that elicits a particular kind of response from citizens, but to frame the conversation in a way that, because for example, in some of the questions that you're asking them, what do you think of what ECOWAS wants to do? It must be understood that what ECOWAS wants to do is to use diplomacy with the option of force as a last resort.
Yes.
If that embodiment is not totally understood, people will just move to one side, that undermines even the diplomatic effort. And then finally, I think that we in politics also have to be careful the kind of precedents that we set. Those of us who are in government don't have to create the impression that, you can do anything without recourse to parliaments. Those of us in opposition do not have to lay down a certain precedent of prior parliamentary approval, because you will be in power someday and you need to take some quick decisions. And finally, citizens, especially those of us who are educated, have a responsibility to do some research ourselves, not just some video that was forwarded to me, so I base my views on that. That way, we can also better educate.
All right, thank you very much, Kojo Nkrumah. And to you, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa.
Well, it's important for ECOWAS to go back to the causative factors. I insist that the credibility ECOWAS is suffering and the new wave of coups is because of bad leadership. Earlier, my brother Kojo tried to do a dichotomy between security issues and leadership. You can't create any dichotomy, any difference. It is political leadership that leads to whether the people are protected, if security improves or not. Presidents are commanders-in-chief of the armed forces. They are responsible for the protection of their people. So in the case of Burkina Faso, for example, we all knew that President Marc Kabore could not handle the security situation. The massacre of Solha, that led to 132 people being killed. That was the beginning of his downfall. So presidents should learn every aspect. Look, even with this global economic crisis, you cite the West, see how they are offering some buffer. They've managed their economies well. In Africa, the people are exposed. So lessons must be learned. And then finally, meeting the committees of parliament is not a parliamentary session where there's a motion, the plenary has met, the speaker is presiding, and you are doing things democratically, constitutionally.
Right.
So I disagree with Kojo on that aspect. And let me remind all of us that in that region, what we have not discussed today is that external military intervention by NATO, led by Sarkozy, which killed Gaddafi, is what created all this insecurity.
Thank you very much.
So let's learn lessons and avoid a military option. It should be taken.
Thank you very much. Dr.
Emboldening the people.
Dr. Kenahosu, what can you say as your concluding remarks in 30 seconds? I'm very sorry.
I'm very sorry. In the first place, my audio dropped and I couldn't make my submission.
You did make some substantial submissions.
But I want to make the point that it is not only Niger military that is in the limelight, but the whole of French colonialism. And I want to side with Professor Nin that there will not be any intervention. If there is ever military intervention in Niger, ECOWAS will collapse, and we can never redress the crisis that will come about.
Interesting. Thank you very much. I give you the last word, Ambassador Abdel Fattah Musa.
No, thank you very much. And I want to actually acknowledge the what will I say, the objective analysis by the panel and the constructive engagement that we've had. I would want to repeat that ECOWAS's credibility is at stake. Just as Professor Enin was saying, the Niger coup is one coup too many. If we allow it to sink roots, there will be many coups in the region in the few months to come. And I want to assure all that we are never going to remove the military option off the table. ECOWAS will never do that. We are giving diplomacy a chance. And if we see that diplomacy is working, the first port of call is to start reducing the impact of the sanctions. That is the first point. Okay. To show the goodwill. Right. But the military option will never be off the table, and that we are determined to do that. So those who say there will never be a military coup, they are emboldening these people. And let me tell you once more, General Tiani is not any anti-French or anti-imperialist. He has served the French all his life. What he did was opportunistic intervention, to remove a certain president who he was supposed to protect.
Thank you very much. We couldn't have it any better than you have all given us. Join me tomorrow on The Law at 2 p.m. And I'm engaging Yao Sapong Boating, the Executive Secretary of the RTI Commission. We're looking at the state of the RTI activation